Joe Big House Kenn, and you are inside the house, powered by dynamic fitness and strength, building the better athlete. In this episode, we have an outtake from an in-service that I performed for the Fresno State performance staff led by head coach Ron McKeefe. We'll discuss mesocycles, the 4-week traditional mesocycle, the 4-week performance mesocycle, the incomplete mesocycle, as well as the mini mesocycle. Also, as an add-on, we will show you a reinforcement medley, which is our version of head support, neck track, and posterior shoulder training. Now on to the show. Okay, so here is what I would call, and this is what most everybody, when I became a strength coach, this was the traditional 4-week mesocycle plan. You had 3 consecutive ladder jumps, and generally they were symmetrical. Most people went 5% jumps per week. I prefer 6. I go on a 3% movement category. I go on a 3% cyclical base more so than I used to with a 2.5. So that would be symmetrical from the standpoint if I started at 70, my load would be 76 and my performance week would be 82, and then I would generally drop 15% from my performance week for my deload to reload. And this is what we've all done. We'd go 3 up, 1 down, move to the next meso, change the goals, in some respects, possibly change some of the movements. Back in the day, the foundation movements very rarely changed. As I got more in tune to manipulating variations of testable movements, I still felt like you needed to train for a duration of time, and we would rotate those movements every 4 weeks. And that's when I came to the conclusion that you can have with advanced lifters sequential foundational movements. And that could be as easy as 1 4-week cycle. You're going to test the back squat, and that's your foundation exercise. And then the next 4-week cycle, you're going to test the front squat. I truly believe, after watching my early days as an assistant and talking to other strength coaches that I hold high regard when I first started, they tested multiple movements from what I would consider the same category. And I think that was a little bit, in lack of a better term, overzealous, because the fatigue sets in and you're putting your athlete at harm's way by trying to test too many strength power related movements in the same week. Like, you could easily see back in the 90s and the late 80s, a test period of power clean, hang clean, bench press, incline, possibly a snatch, possibly a jerk, hang clean, and or power clean. And that doesn't include your jumps, your agility, and your 40. So it can get a little bit crazy. So I learned early on that in the end, I just want to focus on 3 big lifts. That's how it all starts, with clean squat bench. We all started there. But then as you learn more about movement patterns and people, get to you and get you to understand that there's more to it than just lifting, and you have to evaluate certain things about certain lifts. And like I think I told you guys earlier, we all started in this game, regardless of athletics or sport, based off of, 1, how we were trained and what our so-called strength sport discipline was. So if you were a highly competitive, or you were in that powerlifting realm, there was no way you were going to front squat first. And if you were an Olympic lifting realm, you were going to do full squat catch cleans and full squat catch snatches and jerks. And then the bodybuilding guys, they handled different repetitions. And then the high intensity training guys, they believed in 1 set of intensity of effort of full momentary muscular failure. So it all builds around there. And then you got to open up your mind and think about, okay, it always comes through what's best for you is not necessarily best for the athlete. So sometimes you get carried away, and thankfully for me, I never got too caught up with chasing numbers, and I worked with a lot of coaches that although they did want to see evaluation and improvement, I didn't have to flaw my protocols of exercise technique during testing to enhance numbers. I mean, I saw that time and time again back in the day. I think from what I can gather, that's kind of died down in this day and age because football coaches have really, I believe, dialed into the fact that we need them game ready. And it goes back to what we've talked, I believe, the last time, where you're going to have freshmen come in that you know nothing about that may start for you this year. And if you're not worried about how strong they are now, why are you worried about how strong they are when we turn in our testing numbers? Okay, we good on here?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a cycle was brought to my attention when I took what year was that? Okay, about 2001, 2002, my first or second year at Arizona State. You guys probably won't even remember this, but I know most of you guys are familiar with the USA Weightlifting Club Coach or Level 1 coaching program. Well, they had that always in place. And I took that in 1996. In that early 2000s, because strength and conditioning coaches were utilizing that as a secondary certification because they wanted to be skilled in teaching the Olympic lifts, but they didn't need to coach the Olympic lifters. They came up with a sports performance type of certification. So there was actually 2 certifications back in the day. So you could have been a club coach and a certified sports performance coach through USA Weightlifting. And this was the first time that I had seen this type of mesocycle. Our professor at that time, I'll call him Professor Mike Conroy, was from Boise. He was one of the best, if not still one of the best youth weightlifting coaches we had in the country. He taught me how to Olympic lift at Boise. He was a Boise State grad and taught and coached high school at Meridian, which was right up the road from Boise. And when this was introduced to me, this made a tremendous amount of sense because I always wondered why we ended a 4-week mesocycle on the down week. Like, why wouldn't we end it at the highest possible point when it comes to training intensities? And when they showed this on the board, I knew right away that unless something crazy would happen, if we had 4 weeks to train, we were going to train in this matter. So I called this the performance mesocycle based off that course. And if you look at it, it just makes sense. We always talk about recovery and preparation before performance. And if you look at it just as the graph shows, do you not think, common sense wise, that your performance week has a better chance to be successful with a reload before rather than after, when you would have to piggyback the week before that with a heavier load?
Yeah, I like that. What I've typically gone is 2 base weeks, a load week, and then finish with the performance week. But I'm eager to hear what you say about the deload to reload in terms of the intensity.
Yeah, and again, you want it. You don't want this to be like ridiculous because then it will affect performance. You still have to create some type of stimulus, and that's when I was messing with Prilipin's chart. I think I found what I would call the correct way, and there's never one way to do it. But this just made sense, especially for us, because I'm going to show you ways to make your weight room competitive. And hitting the load in the performance day, you can build competition in your weight room and in your strength program setting by manipulating this cycle as long as that deload to reload can occur at week 3. Questions?
Like it.
Got it.
Coach,
Yes, go ahead. Who we got?
I had one question real quick. So with the differences between the traditional mesocycle model and then the performance mesocycle model, with that performance week between the traditional being in week 3 and then the performance model being in week 4, are you literally just switching those? Are those percentages different? Does anything look different, or is it literally just?
That would be the same exact. All it is that we flip the weeks.
Okay.
Percentage is the same. So like when I talked about, let's go back one. So when I said, we said this was 70, 76, 82, 67. Now it's 70, 76, 67, 82.
Gotcha.
Got
Just
it?
making sure. Thank you.
Yep.
Marcus, go ahead and jump off yours. That's what's causing that echo.
Oh, okay. I didn't know what was going on. I got a little nervous that my headset wasn't in right.
No.
Okay, so here's where young coaches and you get nervous, because now, as you've learned in college and most of the texts, everything's driven off of months. Like everything is the standard 4. Oh my God, what am I going to do? I don't have 4 weeks. Yeah, guess what? In this crazy academic calendars, you don't get 4 weeks all the time, and you don't get the link. The days, I mean, it was great before all these rules when you had a 12-week summer. You had 3-4 week blocks, man. It was muddy. Now you got 3 3-week blocks or 2 4-week blocks with a week off, depending on how you want to determine your summer programs. So you have to be aware of that, and you cannot let that. That's not a curveball for y'all. You have to be smarter than that. You have to know that that's going to occur. And when that happens, and you have a certain amount of time to flip different programs, everything starts with a base. You cannot, what I've learned through trying to implement the conjugate method too early in a college system is, I don't care how strong an athlete is in college. As an athlete that's not a competitive or a professional lifter, it is very hard to change max effort lifts every week and think you're going to be successful with a college lifter. They've got way too much on their plate. And that's why before 531 was famous with Jim, I had written an article in 2004 about 531 training at Arizona State, because I learned the hard way. And so what you have to be aware of is your calendar. And that's why when you do the annual plan, the very first thing you have to do in your annual plan is label the uncontrollable factors of the annual plan. And that is primarily getting the academic calendar for your school and marking in all the spring breaks, all the finals, all the fall breaks, any one-day, one-off holiday where school is closed, because that will determine how many weeks you have. My very first time as a football strength and conditioning coach, I wrote this illustrious plan, and it ran through spring break. Well, nobody's coming through spring break. And that's when you learn. And then, you get thrown, oh my God, what am I going to do? I was supposed to test that week. Well, you got to figure it out, bud, because they ain't showing up on spring break. So when you can only have 3 weeks, obviously you're not going to use the deload week. If you're going to get rid of a week and you have 3 weeks, you get rid of that week. And you'll see why I say that when you link mesocycles together. So in a pure incomplete mesocycle, you will have your 3 step-laddered weeks, base load and performance, and you will remove the deload to reload week. Here's your mini meso. Now you've only got 2 weeks. This occurs depending on how you write your programs in the NFL model, because the NFL model is broken up into 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. So in some cases, you may only have a 2-week phase. And the reason why is because of the way the field work changes and the emphasis changes in the conditioning programs. There is some merit to only having a 2-week preparation phase before you go into the next. With that being said, obviously in that period of time, the performance week cannot be emphasized. You do not really have enough accomplished that type of higher intensity and/or possible if you were going to off the script type of training max. So when you have a 2-week option, you go base load and then that's it. That's the way it is. You just write the program up for 2 weeks and you get prepped for the next phase. Do not overthink it. It's that simple.
In this reinforcement medley, we'll start off with posture neck, aka Roondogs, created by Martin Rooney. This is a banded exercise that works neck extension as well as some tilt, where we're raising the chin upwards as we go into extension. In the eccentric portion, we do have a neck nod where we're lowering the chin back to the chest. We're also getting a forward lean to stretch the entire trap region, as in the iso hold at the top, you'll get a pretty good stimulus through the entire trap region. This can be performed for 6 to 10 reps per set, and the band tension will be increased as the athlete's neck gets stronger. We then lead into a standard shrug movement. Here we're doing the seated kettlebell shrug, which is scapular elevation, and then we go into depression on the eccentric. I tend to have my chin in the nodded position to help get a little bit more elevation of the traps. This will generally be done for pretty high volumes, anywhere between 15 and 25 reps per set. Again, in this medley, we're looking to reinforce head support. And what we've chosen to do is utilize movements that concentrate on the neck, the trapezius region, as well as the posterior shoulder. So again, high volume on the shrug work, or generally on all the scapular movements that we choose when we're doing our neck training. And this is generally going to be done before the main session of the lift in our pre-activity preparation portion of the strength training session. The third exercise of the reinforcement medley is generally going to be a posterior capsule or posterior shoulder capsule variation. Here we're doing a modified bent over T-raise, which gives us some horizontal abduction, moving the load away from the body. And again, this will be done for high volume work, generally between 10, 15 to 20 reps per set. Remember, when we're talking about the reinforcement programming, that can be done between 2 and 3 rounds of work. The repetitions will be based off the movement choices. Again, high volume for the trap work, high volume for the posterior shoulder work, and anywhere between 6 and 12 reps for the specific neck work. Hey, we just launched our new apparel line. Check it out. And remember, we're powered by Dynamic Fitness and Strength. Till next time, words win.